questioning everything they thought they knew. Tonight, in hours 1 and 2, we're heading into one of America's most enigmatic paranormal hotspots, Bradshaw Ranch, just outside Sedona, Arizona. Some call it Arizona's Skinwalker Ranch. Others insist it's something even stranger. For decades, visitors have reported UFOs, Bigfoot sightings, bizarre entities, impossible synchronicities, unexplained electromagnetic anomalies, and experiences that seem to blur the line between the physical world and something beyond it. But what if none of these phenomena are separate? What if UFOs, cryptids, mystic experiences, even altered states of consciousness are all different expressions of the very same mystery? My guest tonight didn't simply study Bradshaw Ranch, he lived it. Armed with cameras, scientific instruments, paranormal investigators, psychics, and an open mind, he walked onto the ranch expecting to document strange events. Instead, he says the ranch began interacting with him. Were these encounters evidence of an unknown intelligence, a doorway between realities, or are they pointing us toward an entirely new understanding of consciousness itself? Fasten your seatbelt. This is one of those conversations that starts with a haunted ranch and may end up changing the way you think about reality itself. Then, in hours 3 and 4, for more than 2,300 years, one story has refused to die. A magnificent civilization, unimaginable wealth, technologically advanced, swallowed by the sea in a single day and night. Atlantis. Was it history or the greatest story ever told? Tonight we're taking a deep dive into one of history's most enduring mysteries, not to hunt for a lost continent, but to follow the astonishing journey of an idea that has captivated philosophers, mystics, occultists, archaeologists, dreamers, conspiracy theorists, and visionaries for more than 2 millennia. My guest argues something few people have ever considered. The real mystery isn't whether Atlantis existed. The real mystery is whether generation after generation, or why generation after generation, keeps reinventing it. We'll begin with Plato and the remarkable possibility that Atlantis was never meant to be history at all, but a philosophical thought experiment that took on a life of its own. Then we'll meet the colorful cast of mystics, mediums, prophets, psychics, spiritualists, theosophists, Nazi occultists, New Age visionaries, and self-proclaimed seers who each claim to know what Atlantis really was and what happened to it. Along the way, we'll explore Edgar Cayce, Helena Blavatsky, Ignatius Donnelly, Lemuria, Mu, psychic archaeology, ancient technology, crystal power, forgotten races, lost wisdom, and how Atlantis became woven into everything from UFO lore to modern conspiracy culture. Perhaps Atlantis isn't buried beneath the ocean. Perhaps it's been hiding in our imagination all along. And if that's true, what does our obsession with Atlantis reveal about us? But first, inside America's strangest paranormal ranch. Welcome to the Audio Imaginarium. Come on in, weary traveler. Hang your cloak on a peg, grab a stool, and come gather by the fire. There are stories to be told, and you are among friends. I'm Richard Serra, and this is Coast to Coast AM. Why don't you stay a while?
Identity theft can cost more than you think. Drained investment accounts, stolen tax returns, lost wages, expenses for lawyers. It's a lot. That's why LifeLock is backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which covers up to $3 million for the most comprehensive plan. So if your money is stolen due to identity theft, they've got your back. If you have personal expenses while resolving an identity theft, like paying for travel or extra child care, LifeLock has your back. Need coverage for lost wages because work had to take a back seat throughout all of this? You guessed it, LifeLock has your back. Plus, there's coverage if you need to pay fees for lawyers and experts to resolve your case. Don't face the burden of identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock. Join today and save up to 30% your first year with promo code George. Call 1-800-LifeLock or go to lifelock.com, and when you're there, use promo code George to save 30%. Terms apply.
Real people, real stories.
So I had an appointment with the surgeon, and he told me what all he was going to do, and it was just absolutely horrendous. I came home, I started on Carnivora, and I called and canceled my surgery, and she said, "Are you going someplace else?" I said, "No, I'm taking care of it myself." She said, "Okay," and my problem on my skin went away.
I have bruising that's all over my arms. 3 weeks after I was on the carnivore, I noticed, I'm looking at my arms, and I said, gee, I don't have any bruises on my arms, and I'm always full of bruises. I can't put my finger on it, but I know something's happening. I have to tell you, that has to be the carnivore.
Call 866-836-8735. That's 866-836-8735. Or visit carnivore.com. That's carnivora.com. Use coupon code George to get 15% off your order.
Ron Meyer is an award-winning filmmaker, producer, and author whose career spans Hollywood feature films, television, and documentary production. In recent years, he's become one of the leading explorers of the intersection between UFOs, Bigfoot, consciousness, and the paranormal. His investigations have taken him from Skinwalker Ranch to Bradshaw Ranch, where his own team documented reports of portals, anomalous lights, mysterious entities, time distortions, and extraordinary human experiences. He's the co-author of The High Strangeness of Bradshaw Ranch and believes these seemingly unrelated mysteries may all point to a deeper understanding of reality itself. Ron, welcome to Coast AM. How are you?
So, it's kind of late at night here. How about where you are?
The same. 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern, but that's okay. I'm excited about this conversation.
It's good to meet you again, after a while.
It is. It's great to talk to you again. So, I want you to create some mental images for my listeners. As you drive through the gates at Bradshaw Ranch, what's it look like?
So, there are no gates to drive through. It's fenced. You have to crawl underneath the fence. And so, before you see anything, you have to walk quite a ways until you see the major cluster of buildings, which consist of the original adobe house that the people who settled the area, probably at the turn of the 20th century. And to the right, there's the famous windmill that seems to be frozen sometimes and sometimes not. And then the main building, which is very large, lots of rooms, lots of graffiti. And it was once, a set for many of the major Western, at the time of John Wayne and Elvis Presley. And then if you go back further, there was a time when it was a dude ranch, and there's a lot of structures that would support the livestock of horses and cattle. And it's totally empty. Nobody's living there, no electricity. But, during the day it's not spooky at all. It seems like many other kind of ghost town settings I've seen over the years.
How large is it?
Pardon?
Well, you say you feel good there.
I do.
Yeah. How large is it?
Oh man, it's probably close to 1,000 acres in total. And most of it's just open grassland. It's surrounded by, the beautiful red mountain structures, that are typical of Sedona, Arizona. And if the crow flies, you're probably only like 6 miles away.
Who was Bob Bradshaw? How did his family become connected to the ranch?
Well, he bought the ranch. I always forget that John and Bob, I forget which is father, which is son. He bought the ranch probably in the, I don't know, sometime in the 50s. And let's say that John is the father and Bob is the son. They continue living there. The last Bradshaw there would be Bob's wife, Linda Bradshaw. And she teamed up with Tom Dongo, who's and for roughly 10 years during, I would say, the 1990s, they documented a lot of weird things, took pictures, caught what they thought were orbs. There were a lot of strange footprints around. They wrote books about it. Linda went off and became sort of a psychic up in the Northwest. And then, at the beginning of the 21st century, we bought the ranch for environmental studies, right? Of native plants, supposedly.
Right. The U.S. government. Hang on. You're saying the U.S. government acquired the property to study for environmental purposes. All right, but you don't believe that, do you?
No, I mean they have there's an abandoned weather station, so they made some sort of attempt to look like they were looking at the climate, but it was to study native vegetation, and native vegetation is pretty sparse there because it was used as an active ranch for a long time, and the native vegetation doesn't last that long when it's being used that way.
So are you saying you suspect that the U.S. government bought the ranch to study the paranormal activity there?
That'd be a good guess. I mean, there were a lot of reports of strange going-ons by the locals. Military trucks, that sort of thing. And it was pretty much off. It's a big tourist area, right? And so people cruise around and look at the rock formation, but they kind of stayed away from the ranch itself because of stories and worry about the federal government, stepping in and doing whatever they do. But that's changed now. Changed in a big way.
How so? Does the U.S. government still own it?
And the government still owns it. We first went there in 2022. 2 weeks before that, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch tried to buy the ranch with no luck. But like I said, right now, unless for some reason the gate is open, that happened once for us, so we just drove in. And otherwise, you got to crawl underneath, pull up the fence and crawl underneath to get in.
So technically, are you trespassing when you crawl under that fence?
So recently, I've made a lot of films on government property. I did a whole big series on national parks and national monuments. And part of the Doge thing of Musk, you heard about that where he...
Yes.
So I got the letter from the U.S. government. It says you've gotten a lot of permits in the past. Right now, unless you're making a major film, go ahead and film wherever you want on government property. So that changed things a little bit.
All right. So when you mentioned that the Bradshaw Ranch was at one time a movie set for a lot of westerns, John Wayne filmed there, Elvis Presley filmed there. Do these paranormal reports, do they date back to those years when it was being used as a movie set? Did you find anything in the records about UFOs or Bigfoot or time portals back in the 40s or the 50s?
Not a lot of documentation way back there. There were some reports that Elvis had his own little cabin a ways away from the main buildings and that he had experienced some unusual things, but that was the only thing that really came up. Of course, because it's Elvis, people would be interested. But nearby there are some, let's say one way of looking at these paranormal hotspots is that the idea is that they must have been there for quite a while. Maybe hundreds, thousands of years, not just recently. And there's plenty of pictographs nearby, pretty hard to get to, that indicate image-wise on the walls things that look like spacecraft, portals, Bigfoot, remarkably, and we filmed those. And so there's an indication that there was something special about this place. The land, anyhow, for quite a while, which goes back to, about 1400, something like that, 1500.
Who was
They were
responsible?
contemporary with the Anasazi, which are better known in this country.
Okay. Who was responsible for the pictographs? Was it like the Apache or
The what?
the Apaches? Who was
No,
responsible?
these were cultures that were quite ancient. They built these across the whole Southwest. These houses that they lived in, cliff dwellings, around 1500s. They're quite old. And these were cultures that don't exist anymore. They've been replaced by what are called the Pueblos in the United States. All in the Southwest. You can see their ruins. You know where they once lived. And the popular tourist attractions.
So what drew you to Bradshaw? Because my understanding is that you weren't originally planning to investigate Bradshaw Ranch at all. What changed? What drew you there?
There's a story of synchronicities. Do you want to hear the whole darn thing?
Absolutely.
So, I did this one we called the Bigfoot Alien Connection Review, pre-COVID. It was a huge success. Right now, it's probably around close to 75, 80 million views worldwide. It's on every streaming platform. And it kind of introduced the idea that it's okay to talk about Bigfoot, and I think UFOs was the terminology back then. And it infected a lot of people. It opened the doors for a lot of people, amazingly. And I went to do a follow-up because I had a better understanding of what was going on, and I needed some event to wrap up, some kind of investigation, because that's where I ended up the first one. And I was going to do it in a Bigfoot place in Ohio, but the person who was there said, don't come out, it's hunting season, you'll probably get killed. So I had to look for another place. And what will happen sometimes is I opened up my phone, looked at the news feed, and there was a story about the vortexes at Sedona. And I thought, I think that's a place I should look into. And so I started, seeing who I could talk to who could maybe inform me about what might be there that could turn into a fitting ending with an investigation. And I came across somebody finally, because I think they had been bugged quite a bit. And he said, well, there's this person, you're from Colorado. She was here, she was from Colorado. And she went out to this place called Bradshaw Ranch nearby. Why don't you call her and see what she has to say? So I called her. And actually, she lived quite close to the big Sasquatch outpost in Bailey, Colorado, where we film a lot of cool investigations. But she was living in Florida now. And she said, yeah, I went to Bradshaw Ranch. I crawled underneath the fence. And I had a couple strange experiences, and I got the heck out of there. And so she said there's this one person, Linda Leslie, who does Skywatch tours. She said, why don't you call her, and she can maybe help you out. So I did call Melinda, and she knew all about Bradshaw. I've been there many times. And said there's this guy, Tom Dongo, who was one of the original investigators, and he lives in Cottonwood, and she gave me his address. So I called his phone number, and I called him, and he said, yeah. It's never really been documented in any real way since I was out there. And I've been mentoring somebody who kind of is into the place, Jürgen Hess, and he said, I'm getting too old to go running around out there. So he said, call Jürgen. I called Jürgen. And I said, well, we'd like to come and do some Bradshaw. He said, fine, I'll be your guide. And that's how I got out there.
Okay.
I was there for a series of synchronicities.
I'll say,
So,
but
2 weeks
in your
later,
book-
we were out there. Huh?
Okay. In your book, Ron, I think your book actually opens with there's like a phone call you and another researcher experienced this bizarre cell phone anomaly at exactly the same moment.
Yeah, right. So when I was talking to Jurgen, something took control of each of our phones and showed us pictures of ourselves as we were talking. I mean, that's quite impossible in some way, as far as I know. So that's pretty freaky, and that kind of got me excited, like, wow, it's saying, come on out.
Yeah, I mean,
things like that
almost,
makes me come in.
It's almost like the ranch. It's almost like the ranch was drawing you there.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
And can you briefly describe the moment you first arrived? What struck you immediately?
I have to think back. What?
I mean, did it feel creepy or?
It felt creepy to me. Jurgen said, I've been coming out here quite a bit, both day and night, and I've never felt threatened. Unlike, Skinwalker Ranch, where bad things happen. And I looked at the Adobe house and I said, that's really cool, can we go inside? So I went inside, and there was a lot of graffiti. There's graffiti everywhere, because many people have snuck in there, and done things. But nobody's really investigated.
Ron, I got to jump in. Pardon the interruption. We're going to take a break now, bottom of the hour. We'll get back to your story. Ron Meyer is with us. High Strangeness of Bradshaw Ranch, right here on Coast to Coast AM. Stay with us.
Scores, traffic, and weather bulletins on your cell phone. Sign up for text alerts at wgnsradio.com. Now, an update from the wgnsradio.com News Center.
Rutherford County's unemployment rate rose to 3.1% in June, up from 2.6% in May, but remained below Tennessee's non-seasonally adjusted rate of 3.8%. The county also improved slightly from June of 2025, when unemployment stood at 3.3%. Murfreesboro's recorded a 3.3% unemployment rate, while Laverne came in at just 3.1%. Smyrna posted the lowest local rate at 3%, tying for the third lowest unemployment rate among Tennessee cities, with populations above 25,000. While employment numbers remain competitive, Rutherford County leaders are facing a separate long-term challenge involving the overcrowded adult detention center. The jail was originally built for roughly 400 inmates, but now houses more than 1,050, with officials warning that the aging facility is deteriorating and can't be expanded safely. County Mayor Joe Carr says a proposed 53-acre site on South Church Street in Murfreesboro is the only property identified with adequate utilities. Negotiations with the landowner have stalled amid competing offers, reportedly exceeding $35 million. With the state overcrowding mandate approaching, county commissioners voted 12-9 to authorize eminent domain if necessary. Supporters argue that constructing a new jail would avoid the disruption of renovating an occupied facility and could save Rutherford County between $140 million and $190 million in long-term operating costs. That's all for now. I'm Dalton Barrett, and I'll talk to you later.
The Good Neighbor Network, on air and online at wgnsradio.com. Rutherford County's most trusted source for local news.
The Colonel Hardy Murphy Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. Spotlight America 250.
I'm Marie Burton. September 1776. New York is burning, and Washington is desperate for intel. One man steps forward. Nathan Hale, a young captain, crosses enemy lines. He is caught. No trial, no mercy. Before he faces the gallows, his words define the dedication of the revolution. I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country. 250 years ago, the search for independence was built on individual sacrifice. Remember the faces of 1776.
A tribute to America 250 from the Colonel Hardy Murphy chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. A public service of WGNS, your good neighbor station.
I had 5 drunk driving charges in the last 6 years of my drinking, and I drank for over 55 years. My probation officer threatened me with a year in jail.
Muy pronto en el canal El Noti-VLOG del Ermitaño, más juegos, más Noti-VLOGs y más diversión. Y recuerden, somos un canal republicano. Les daré un consejo, no más envidias y competencias. No somos iguales y todos competimos con nosotros mismos.